Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Frame.io Live. My name is Shawn, and we are so excited to have you all join us today. We've got a great show for you lined up. But before we get started in true Frame.io Live form, I want to get a little hello. And there's already some folks in the audience in the chat leaving some comments. Tell us where you're coming from. But also, since this is an NAB-centric show, I want to know if anyone actually went to NAB last week. I got to tell you, the energy was electric there. Everyone seemed to really love the community that's being built around this industry. And man, it was just really exciting to see everyone. So let me know if anyone was at NAB. But for those of you that weren't, this show is for you because we want to catch you up on all the great gossip. So got some Los Angeles in there. We got to wait. Where's my beer? All right. I don't know. I don't have it. Somebody's got to have. Does anybody have a beer for him anywhere in this room? We got an hola. We got a hello, everyone. We got another hola. And yeah, we got some Phoenix in there. We got some Germany. Hello from Germany. New York. Yes, I was there. Perfect. Any cool things that you found? So for anyone that went to NAB, let me know any fun things that you may have saw or seen. I'd love to incorporate it in our discussion today as we're talking AI and content creation. But, you know, we'll go on that in just a few moments. But I'm going to give a few more little shout outs here. We got Korea. We got Mexico. We've got Canada, New Hampshire. We've got London. Look at all these people from all over Milan, Netherlands. And yes, somebody else was at NAB. I love it. Argentina, Amsterdam. Whoop, whoop. Another Argentina. Wow, this is amazing. This is what I love about virtual events like this. It brings people together. We're all over the world, and it's just really cool to broadcast. So for those of you that are overseas, I really appreciate it because I know it's a little later out there. So I really appreciate you hopping in. Dominican Republic, we've got Oklahoma. Yeah, listing all the countries. I mean, we're pretty much covering every single one of them. Anywho, keep them coming in. Throw in any questions you might have as well, because we've got a great panel out there that's waiting in the sidelines, waiting to talk to you. So this is a great place to kind of connect with them because they are heavy hitters in the industry. They are with Adobe, and they really have a wonderful view of all of our customers and all of the people that use our technology and use the technology that we're learning about today. And I really want to have them take the floor and really have a discussion and talk about this. We could just kind of uncover some things that maybe we didn't know or discover about AI before. But yeah, so this is a great place to drop in your questions because I will leave some time at the end for some Q&A because we want you to have a chance to ask those questions and have an open discussion about all of our different topics. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So for those of you that are not aware, NAB is the National Association of Broadcasters, and this event happens in Las Vegas every year, right around this time, usually around April. And this year, 61,000 people attended that represented 163 different countries. So Frame.io Live's got to catch up with all the different countries that are here. But yes, 163 countries were represented at NAB this year. And Frame.io and Adobe had the opportunity to demo some new things at our booth. And again, the energy was absolutely electric. Now, so for those of you that could not make it this year, this session is aimed at making you feel like you were right there in the action. And what are the big topics? Well, AI is a huge part of all of our daily discussions. And I wanted to kind of get this group together, discuss AI and content creation, and kind of decipher what different AI tools and such are out there, and kind of get an idea of what the top trends are. So without further ado, let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and introduce my guests. Today, we are joined by Kylee Pena, who is a senior product marketing manager and also a professional editor. We have Meagan, Keane, who's the director of product marketing for Pro Video. We have Morgan Prygrocki, who's the senior strategic developer sales manager or developer manager for enterprise offerings. So let's bring them on up and say hello. Hello, everyone. Hello. Just to let you know, we're in a discussion now. Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Hi.
How's
it going?
Good. Welcome to the show, Frame.io Live. This is your first time appearing on the show. So I'm so excited to have you all here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
And there you go. Now we know who all the names are. So let's do a quick roundtable and just get an idea of what everyone does and, you know, what your background is. So Meagan, if you want to start with yourself.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Meagan Keane. I'm Director of Product Marketing for Pro Video. What that means is I lead business strategy, sort of why are we making the choices that we're making with the products from a business standpoint? Where is the market going? What are the trends? What are customers asking for? Um, Before working in tech, I spent about 10 years as an editor and producer for feature documentaries, which anyone who works in feature documentaries knows that also means I worked in commercials. And I've been at Adobe for just over 12 years now, always on the pro video team, always deep in the geek around video.
Love it. Well, you're in good company because we have Kylee here as well. So, Kylee, tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background.
Sure. Hi, Kylee Pena. I work with Meagan on product strategy and things like that. I work really closely with the product and engineering teams and design teams working on Premiere Pro directly, which is a lot of fun. And I get to be really immersed in the community to make sure that what we're building is what you want. And then what we build, you can hear about it and then start using it. My career, I started out as an editor as well for 10 years or so, and I still do it on the side for nonprofits. And I pivoted into more of workflow and technology in dailies for television. And then I worked at Netflix in creative tech, advocating for creative technologists and workflow there as well. And so happy to be back in Premiere Land because it's where I started my career and my editorial journey.
Love it. And Morgan, please show us a little bit about yourself.
Of course. Thanks, Shawn. Morgan Prygrocki. I'm based in Los Angeles. I'm part of the Pro Video team here. I work directly with a lot of the studios and networks, as well as the individual editorial teams that are cutting long form and short form projects on Premiere Pro. My background, I like to think I've gone all the way from production all the way through to post at this point. I started my career as a freelance camera operator. I worked at Red Digital Cinema for a number of years, and then I moved into camera tracking for visual effects, as well as live broadcasts. I did a little stint building LED volumes for virtual production jobs, and now I've been at Adobe for close to 3 years. So really happy to be here. Thanks for having us, Shawn.
Of course, anytime. So let's jump right into it. We all were at NAB last week. We know how much madness comes with being at the show, and also when you work the booth, it's really hard to like find a way to get around to other booths or at least see other partners or friends that are there. But I just want to throw out there any interesting trends that you found, any exciting releases that you're really excited for that you noticed at the show last week.
This is the year of generative AI. I think everyone is okay with admitting that. Every year there seems to be a trend with whatever the new hot tech is at NAB. In the past, it's been things like virtual production and cloud technology. We've had 4K live broadcasts before in the past. We've had 4K and 8K. But this year, I think it's safe to say AI was the topic that came up in every single conversation at the show this year, for sure.
Yeah, one thing I thought was interesting about the AI, the generative AI topic in particular, was that everybody knew that that's what we were supposed to be talking about. Everybody knew that like that was the topic of the year, but like nobody's quite there. Like there's a lot of stuff happening and explorations, and we're like right on the precipice of being able to put things out, even Adobe included. But like we're all sort of biting our nails, seeing where it's going to go. The other thing that I saw was really sort of new ways of consuming and experiencing video, whether, like the oh my gosh, 360.
Vision Pro?
No, not the Vision.
Sphere.
Yes, Vision Pro.
360 video, maybe.
Yeah. 360 video was super popular. People were going to the Sphere to see the postcard from Earth experience. Vision Pro is obviously a big topic. So that was another one that was interesting to see, that we're sort of moving beyond even the little screens and the medium screens. We're like now in these like really immersive experiences, which is fun.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I felt like we were stuck talking about cloud for a long time. And now it's to the point where it's sort of just a given. And it's enabling a lot of this other stuff that's going on. And we're all acknowledging generative AI is just so compute intensive and really difficult to do, but it relies on a lot of this cloud and then, evolving that. But it's also really interesting how this is powering the potential of hyper individual experiences like the Vision Pro and things like that. But then that's also massive, like shared experience of something like the Sphere, which if you all don't know, definitely Google it. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's hard to explain. It's a giant sphere and it's incredibly immersive. So it's like a juxtaposition of things, but it's just like all these conversations of many NABs converging into the next thing.
And
Yeah.
Cosmo Post nailed it. Insta 360 was what I was looking for. Yeah, it was big crowds at that booth.
Well, speaking of the Sphere, did you guys all get to go see it last week? Because I know a lot of us went to go check it out. I mean, it's hard not to. So thank you, Kylee, for explaining. But if anyone doesn't know what it is, but if you've seen any recent pictures, it's a giant structure that looks like a giant sphere, and on the outside, it's got all these LEDs to create this really amazing video on the outside. But when you go inside, it's almost like IMAX, but just even huge, like just large, like the screen just goes all the way up above your head. It's a huge immersive experience. Now, I really think this is going to change the way people interact with their media in the future. And I think that's really exciting to see where it's going to go. Where do you think, I'm just kind of going off the cuff here, but where do you think that kind of technology, like, do you think people are going to go more towards VR headsets or actually going into an experience and immersing themselves in a film at a place like the Sphere?
I think both. I think both for a number of reasons. And just a quick shout out, because I also saw U2 at the Sphere this past December as well. And while the LED element is incredible, what no one prepares you for is the audio experience. I'm not an audio person by trade, but the way that they've designed the audio in that venue is absolutely astounding. It's loud. It's not too loud. It's like, I think I saw some stats where every single seat in the venue has 8 speakers just dedicated to you with the way that they've engineered everything. It is absolutely incredible. Like the audio is like the cleanest audio experience I've ever had. So I think, like, for me, I think we've consumed media in the same way for decades at this point, either in traditional venues or, televisions or movie theaters. But I think this is really opening up kind of like an entirely new tier of ways to consume this type of content. And I've got to tell you, like, after being in the venue, all I want to see, like, that's the only venue that I would like to see concerts in moving forward, just because some of the possibilities of what you can accomplish in that venue are just absolutely insane from a visual perspective, from an audio perspective. Please, like, if you have not checked it out, like, and we're not getting paid by the Sphere here, but like, if you have not checked it out, please go. It is worth every penny. It's the one venue where I do feel like your money is well spent.
Yeah, and I like it. It was really a cool element of the conference overall, because everybody was talking about it. Everybody was like, "Oh, have you gone? If you haven't gone, like, totally 10 out of 10, recommend it." And then those who had gone were talking about all the different tech required to make it the magical experience that it was. And so I think that was another really great part of the NAB experience this year that, has been gone for a while, is this community gathering. There was like a lot of, the community events, parties, community spaces were really full, and everybody was sort of talking about these new, whether it was the Sphere or the booths that they had gone to. And going back to the AI conversation, I think that's really important as we are going into this new space of AI. Obviously, the strikes in Hollywood over the last year were really, a lot of that came down to the fear and the threat that people are feeling from AI. And so from an Adobe perspective, we were really wanting to make sure that we're connecting with the community and sort of feeling out how people are feeling about things and making sure that we're implementing AI in a way that feels like we're supporting creatives versus people feeling like threatened or scared by it.
Well, in getting back to AI, I do want to ask, like, we should probably set a baseline because maybe there's some folks in the audience that aren't actually sure what AI is. So I'd like to see if somebody in here would like to just kind of tackle the high level view of what AI is, but also the difference between generative and assistive AI.
Yeah, so I can maybe try to tackle that, and then I think probably Kylee and Morgan are best positioned to sort of speak to the different sides of it. So at Adobe, the way that we think about AI or artificial intelligence is in two different buckets. So there's assistive AI, and assistive AI, you've actually seen assistive AI features in Premiere Pro or across Adobe tools for years. Like I think our first AI feature was in 2016 or something. And those are the features that really remove the toil. They sort of automate things that you don't actually want to be doing anyway. And it just like helps you. On the other side is generative, which is more like creating new pixels. You come up with something in your brain and you type it in and then it's created from nothing. And that's more the generative space. And so at the show this year, we were actually talking about both. Maybe Kylee, I could throw it to you to show some of the new stuff that's actually coming to Premiere very, very soon.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, I'm still a little sick from NAB. That's part of the charm.
That's part of the job.
Engineers. So as Meagan said, we've been doing assistive AI for a long time, and there are a lot of features that are sort of sneakily AI powered you may not know, like scene edit detection, speech to text, auto reframe. These are all relying on AI, and our upcoming release is focused on audio workflows, and this also includes some assistive AI. So I'm going to just show you a few things if you haven't seen them yet. So of course, mixing audio, editing audio as a former picture editor, it's definitely not my strength. And I know that to be true of a lot of picture editors. So we wanted to just make it easier for people of all skill levels, of all needs, to be able to get to a final mix faster, fewer clicks, less mouse mileage, because there are different panels and menus and things you could hunt around and do a lot of clicking around. So we can use AI and some refreshed elements in our UI to kind of make that easier. So the first thing I want to show you is really cool, new visual fade handles. So before you'd have to like right click or find a transition to drag in here. And now instead I can grab this little handle right here and just pull here and create the new visual fades. And now, even more importantly, I can see where they are and what they're doing and exactly when the fade is kicking in. And I can do a crossfade as well, which is really handy. Another thing, and this is where the AI really comes in, is you'll notice these little badges right here. When you drag in an audio clip, it now will detect automatically if it's dialogue, music, sound effects, or ambiance, and add this little icon so you can visually skim through your timeline. But what's really cool is I can actually click on that and the essential sound panel will open no matter where I have it, no matter what workspace I have. I can click on that, and up here, the essential sound panel opens with the most relevant tools. And this also helps to surface some other AI-powered tools here, like enhanced speech, a definite community favorite to help clean up poorly recorded audio, and loudness matching and automatic ducking to bring music underneath the dialogue automatically, so you don't have to draw and redraw all those keyframes, all powered by AI and a lot easier to find now with the AI-powered tagging that we have in the timeline. We've also adjusted the FX badges as well, so you can right click on this to add and adjust effects straight from the timeline, or you can click on it and it'll open the effect control panel up here so you can get right into adjusting anything you might need too. And then as I'm adjusting these track heights, you can see that the waveforms are scaling as well, which is super handy. So no matter how small or big they are, you always have a visual indication. So again, this is meant to just help you find what you need faster and then help get you to exactly what the most relevant tools are for that sound type using some AI to just kind of help you get through those initial steps to get to the audio mixing a lot faster. So that's assistive AI, and that's coming very soon in Premiere Pro, the next version. But we did also release some really cool early looks at what generative AI could look like in Premiere Pro. So maybe we could play that video.
Yeah, let's play it. Mark, if you're able to cue it up.
Adobe is using the power of generative AI to deliver the most advanced and precise editing tools ever in Premiere Pro. Let's take a look at some features coming soon powered by our new Adobe Firefly video model that'll transform how editors work. One common editing challenge is finding something in a shot you need to add or replace. The Object Addition feature in Premiere Pro, combined with Adobe's Firefly video model, lets you add or change objects in footage with a text prompt. Make a selection, write a prompt, and add anything you can imagine. These diamonds were created by the Firefly video model currently in development. And not only can you add objects, but you can easily remove them too. Object removal with AI-based smart masking makes selecting and removing objects across frames quick and precise. Here, this distracting utility box is removed with Firefly. Remove unwanted props, crew or gear, or copyrighted elements like brand logos. And with Premiere Pro, all your edits are non-destructive, so you can always get back to your original footage. When your clip is too short and you want to hold on a shot or a character for an extra beat, Generative Extend intelligently adds frames with Firefly, extending your footage, so you have the exact media you need. Like here, where we extend this shot of the woman a few frames. As we continue to innovate, we're committed to transparency through the use of content credentials. Now coming to Premiere Pro, so you always know whether AI was used in the creation of the media you're viewing. We can't wait to bring these Firefly-powered video editing workflows to Premiere Pro later this year. And there's more. We're excited to share our explorations around giving editors the choice to use models that work best with their footage. Here are some early examples of how third-party generative AI models could look within Premiere Pro, like Pika, powering Generative Extend to make a scene flow better. From OpenAI, here's an example of their Sora model, currently in early research, generating B-roll for any scene. Through simple text prompts, Sora creates variations for you to choose from. Here's the same use case now using Runway AI's video model, generating a new video clip and adding it to the timeline in a snap. And content credentials coming to Premiere Pro this year will always make transparent whether AI was used and what model was used in the creation of media. To recap, revolutionary features like Object Add, Remove, and Generative Extend, powered by the new Adobe Firefly video model, are coming to Premiere Pro. And we're excited to show early research explorations with our friends at OpenAI, Runway, and Pika, so editors have the freedom to use the best model for their project. It's Adobe Premiere Pro, supercharged by AI.
Love it. So exciting to see these features come out very, very soon. And so glad we have a little sneak peek at some of the things we got to see in NAB, but obviously here on Frame.io Live. So I do want to throw a question out to the group because I'm sure there'll be some questions that'll pop in. We already have a few kind of queued up for us, but what do you think is the most common perception or misconceptions are specifically on AI?
I would say over the last year and a half, we've really been having conversations, deep conversations with every single one of our creators, whether you're an editor, an assistant editor, a producer, you're a film student that's just trying to understand, what sort of discipline you're trying to get into these days. And throughout that, I think, at a baseline, everyone does carry some concern over, AI taking over any sort of creative type of work. But the reality is that, that would mean that your client also has to articulate clearly what it is they want. And as we know, that's not always the case. I think there's always going to be a very creative element to this flow. And I think, AI is not going to take over anyone's job per se. I think it is going to alter the shape of what your day-to-day looks like. But On the plus side, you know, I've been to film school. I know Kylee and I have had this conversation a number of different times. And I know that like a lot of folks that are just starting out are like super energized by all of these creative ideas that they want to start producing. But you quickly realize like, oh, wait, I'm going to be a gopher or a production assistant for the first couple years of my job. And absolutely none of what I'm doing is truly creative. And that's where like a lot of people get jaded in this industry pretty early on, is like, wait a second, like I don't even get to do the creative work that I went to school for and that, you know, I'm so passionate about. Instead, I'm like transcribing footage or logging footage. So I think what, you know, I choose to look at this, the glass half full. Whereas if we can help people like leapfrog some of those more gophery type positions by letting AI do some of the more tedious tasks that like aren't core creative, I don't really think anyone's going to miss. No one's going to miss transcribing footage. No one's going to miss rotoscoping. I mean, feel free to disagree with me in the chat. I would love to have a conversation about this if you would disagree with that. But my hope is that it will get creatives into a position where they feel creatively inspired faster. And I think if anything, for anyone that's listening that feels a little bit intimidated at the pace of which AI technology is moving, I think the positive side of this is we're all learning this new skill at the same time. This promptography is an entirely new muscle everyone has to learn at the same time. So this is sort of an interesting like inflection point where we have a great reset on like what the future of creativity is going to look like. I think we're going to get a load of new content, new franchises. You know, I'm someone who found the end of the internet during COVID, where I had nothing new to watch. And I think with content demand on the rise, like a lot of AI tools are going to help us deliver better content faster. And maybe give some folks that wouldn't have otherwise had a voice the opportunity to tell their story, which may be the type of content that we're actually looking for. Sorry, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I will get off my soapbox, but
no, it's great. Kylee, Meagan, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Morgan. I'm going to date myself, but I was right on the, you know, when I was graduating from film school and going into working, was right in that transition from film to digital. And there were a lot of people who were like, no, film forever, and I will never go digital, and it's the only true art form. And, you know, those of us who embraced more of the digital and took the reins and said like, no, I'm going to like dive in and understand this. That's what opens up job opportunities. And really, like, as if you can embrace AI and learn how to write good prompts and understand what are the different solutions that are out there that can augment some of how you're working, I think it will actually just give you a leg up on the future of where we're going. At Adobe, we're really being super considerate about how we're implementing generative specifically. Creatives are obviously always top of mind for us, and making sure that we're implementing workflows specifically into the pro tools that are helping the creatives is really our forcing function. So when you think about like generative extend, like literally, I don't even have to ask if the editors that are here today have encountered this like insufficient media, like, oh, you can't add that transition. Oh, your dip to black feels short, or the pacing just feels off because you don't have that like 10 more frames that could just let it sit for a beat. It's like we all have encountered that. So that, like, when I first saw that implementation out of our research teams, I was like, oh God, like this is so amazing. You know, not to mention some of my own reactions to like text-based editing and speech to text coming out of documentary. I'm like, oh God, the years that I could have saved in my life.
Yeah, same. As a former reality documentary primarily and also corporate editor, I had a similar reaction where I'm like, oh, where was all this when I was in it all the time? I sort of came of age and started using all of these tools right at the transition of democratizing video, putting it in the hands of more like consumers, really prosumers, motivated people that could deal with, you know, transcoding and things. But still, for the first time, I could have the first version of Premiere Pro on my home computer, and I could shoot high 8 tapes and digitize them. And that was transformative for a lot of people. Like a lot of people like me could see themselves doing this work and telling stories using visual tools. And I see this as another moment of transformation where a whole bunch of people are going to be able to tell different stories because they have all these different tools available to them. And I think that's fundamentally a good thing. I understand like every moment where there is like a technological revolution, it's like, oh, how is this going to change things? How is it going to impact my day to day? And I also choose to see it as the glass half full. Sure, democratizing, putting the tools in many different hands means there's a lot of different content, but that's good because there's a lot of different needs and interests. I mean, Morgan and I have some really specific interests when it comes to reality TV. So we're really happy about this. And I think when it comes to like these immersive and individual experiences, we need all of these tools to just kind of ideate faster and get to some really cool things. But it doesn't work without the human aspect, because no generative AI is going to really do something completely unexpected in a good way, because that's where the human element comes in. We have to take these ideas that it's been trained on and then get some inspiration, remix like we have throughout all of human history, and then create something really special. And then that's the stuff that really makes me happy to power.
So I was going to ask the group kind of where they see AI going, but I feel like we kind of addressed that. So it kind of got brought up because I know, Morgan, you talked to a lot of different customers, and, Kylee, you were mentioning kind of the human aspect, but I want to know, like, what were attendees asking about, or what do you think users are asking for specifically on AI? Just in conversations you've heard or trends that you've been seeing?
I'd say the number one thing that everyone will probably have soonest is this concept of media intelligence. And not just, from an Adobe perspective, but regardless of what tools you're using. I think there's a big push right now to help users understand what is occurring in their content, where to find certain elements. I mean, anybody that has an iPhone knows with iPhoto, you can search for keywords like dog, cat, car, that sort of thing. So it's not really like this tech is like anything super new. But I think, regardless of whether you're an editor that's using a MAM, where this functionality is built into it, there's some storage providers that are starting to explore putting this type of content intelligence into their tools. I think that's going to be a trend that you're going to see regardless of what tool set you're using, because once we understand like where your content is, whether that's project specific or even an archive of content, we can build a lot of really cool automations on top of that. Like the number one thing that I hear from a lot of, I'll stick with the reality TV example, but like, there's a lot of creative interpretation that goes into building an unscripted story arc, right? And one of the things that editors are always telling us is, I'm trying to like understand what this producer's note means here when they say something super vague, like make it pop. And as we all know, it's not like there's an infinite number of hours in the day to continually chew on your footage to try to find like the, exact right interpretation of like how you think this producer is giving you this comment. And I think there's a really cool possibility to generate alternate variations of content where in the past you probably didn't have the time in order to generate out, 2, 3, 4, 5 versions of a particular scene to at least give that, to your stakeholders for review. So I do think like there are some really, really great slick workflows that can help save us a lot of time once we understand what's occurring in your media. So that's probably the biggest trend I see, like industry-wide, not just within Adobe, but within Adobe, like we are actively talking to a lot of our users to find out what sort of actions they want to be able to take from that.
And when it comes to the questions specifically that we were getting, they're actually in the chat right now. One is, when can I get my hands on this? And we're working on getting generative AI into Premiere Pro by the end of the year. So stand by on that. And then basically questions about will the exported videos have a watermark or anything like that? And really it comes down to the question of how are you dealing with the element of being able to label what's generated and what's homegrown organic content. And for that, no, there is not a visual watermark, but we do have content credentials, which are a sort of a tamper-evident embedded metadata. It's like a nutrition label for your generated AI content that tells you all the ingredients and what was adjusted and things like that. And Adobe co-founded the Content Authenticity Initiative in 2019 to spearhead transparency in AI altered or generated content. It's got over 2,500 member companies across media and entertainment, but then also beyond, because this really impacts the wider, beyond just our video industry. And it's really important to have transparency around how content was made and altered, so that we can always know origins of these things and be aware of what models were used and how they were used.
And in mentioning the 2,500, companies, platforms, most recently Meta and Google both joined the Content Authenticity Initiative. So while it's not implemented yet, you can imagine that like you upload something to YouTube, and if it has these content credentials, that there's a little bug in the top corner where you can see like what has been altered. Has there, has part of this media been created with AI. So we're working really closely with platform partners as well to make sure that there's transparency and people can see, when and where you may be adding things using AI.
Yes, and while we're exploring bringing third-party models into Premiere, which we think is really important because there's going to be a future where there are many, many different models that serve very niche purposes, different cases, not just a few big ones, which is sort of what the vibe is right now, but it's more like the plugin ecosystem that we support now. We see that as the future. We're designing our own Firefly video model, which is designed to be commercially safe and very flexible as well.
But on that note, I mean, I think one of the other big trends that we've heard from users is, I think, with a lot of the text to image generators that have, in the generative AI realm that have been out for some time now, most people are using those tools for ideation, storyboarding, concepting, but none of that is actually going to make it into like the final pixel of any finished piece of content. So there might be instances where our users are okay with using a model that's commercially unsafe, because I hate to use the term throwaway, but if it's not going to make it into final pixel, and this is really only like a concept walkthrough in a previs type use case, then I mean, that's totally an instance where we want to be able to provide our users with access to those tools, because ultimately, even in those like video previs use cases, you're still probably going to want to cut them into a timeline and throw together a little sequence of planning out how your shoot's going to go. So
and to answer,
right
sorry,
tool,
Morgan.
great job. Sorry, Meagan.
No, just to answer the question in the chat about, can we ensure that our clients will be legally protected when using AI in a project? That's the intent with the Firefly models. The way that we are building the models in Firefly are designed, as Kylee said, to be commercially safe, meaning we are training the models on Adobe stock, on open source content, on things that are not, don't hold a license or, trademark by other companies. And so Adobe goes so far as to offer indemnification for some of our business customers to say, yes, if you are implementing content from Firefly, whether that's the still models that are available in Photoshop right now, or the video models that it will be available for Premiere Pro users later in the year, that we will indemnify against any legal problems, because we're designing it to be commercially safe.
Love it. I know we kind of answered a few questions in there, but I want to stay in this space a little bit. Now, last year, virtual productions were kind of a huge part of NAB, and kind of everyone's shooting virtual productions. Everyone's talking about The Mandalorian. How do you think this is going to change with all these new AI tools kind of coming into play? Are we going to need, those virtual sets anymore? Are we going to be able to just throw it into AI? Do you think they'll be able to work together a little bit? How do you think that'll play in the same space?
Okay, so I have a lot of opinions on this, but I have been on the very harsh reality set that happens when you have a real-time asset that has been built in such a way where like getting real-time playback on LED surfaces just ain't in the cards. You know, it is a careful balance between building a scene the right way that's capable of playing back with minimal frame delay. And what frame delay looks like on set, just for those of you in the room that haven't witnessed this live, is if a scene is really what we call heavy, if you whip pan the camera, it'll stutter on the LED wall and basically make it useless. So there is an entire art form in making scenes that are photorealistic enough to play back at real time without it being distracting to the audience. But let's also remember that the whole purpose of why virtual production is useful is because it also helps you get better performances out of your actors if they can actually interact with this virtual environment that's going to be added in later in post, whether that's with CG characters that maybe aren't there on set. Being able to have actual line of sight to some of these objects is pretty crucial. So I don't think virtual production is going to go away, but what I do think is going to happen is we are going to see, a lot of strides in our ability of creating really cool, 3D assets that are actually capable of playing back in real time, because it's a monumental effort to try to build these worlds from scratch. It'll take on minimum couple months to get a really, really good photorealistic scene. And if we can leverage generative AI tools to help, model out some of these objects faster, like that's best case scenario. I've yet to speak with anyone that's in virtual production that is concerned that this is going to somehow kill what they're doing. I think if anything, this is like a very welcome enhancement.
Any other thoughts on that, Meagan or Kylee?
I leave the virtual production conversation to Morgan because she kills it every time.
No, it's all good. Well, let me throw another question in there to kind of highlight some things that AI can really do for community building. I know that Meagan, you talked about this in our call, but how do you think AI is going to be able to help companies achieve better D&I goals, so diversity inclusion goals, to kind of spread the positivity forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a big topic because the way that I think about AI is really opening certain workflows, certain things that have always been limited to people with really big budgets, a lot of means, resources across the board, to say like, oh, you haven't ever been able to create a previs for your independent film because you just don't have the money to do it. Could you use AI to start creating that? Could you, are there places where, you don't have the funds for, an aerial shot that you're thinking of for your short film, but could you create it using AI? So I think that it opens doors for people to have more limitless imagination in terms of the stories that they're telling. Earlier, Kylee was talking about the democratization of filmmaking that was more around like, you can afford the cameras, you can afford the software to cut the film. And now it's more like anything that you can imagine, you can start to create if you have some ingenuity. And really what it means is that then it comes down to the storytelling, right? Yes, there's a flood of people who can tell stories, but like, who's telling the best stories? Who's having the most creative ideas? And then it just helps to, push the conversation forward, push stories forward, thinking about, back to the sphere, like thinking about not telling a story just here, but like all around, and it's just really exciting sort of what storytelling capabilities it'll start opening up.
Yeah, I also think it's really important and to understand this is, I think, the first time that we've had a big transformational technical moment where representation and inclusion is also top of mind as the technology is being built. Especially at Adobe, we have the AI Ethics Review Board and diverse human oversight and things like that. And part of the active conversation collectively, as everyone is building this and integrated into workflows, is making sure that we're not marginalizing anyone. And I'm not sure that's ever really happened in the moment instead of as an afterthought. So I think that will also empower people because it will bring more people into the table. When we're democratizing, when this is democratizing, it will also make people feel welcome to take part in the technology because they see themselves.
Can I just say that I would also rather have us compete over who has the best idea versus who has the most resources and connections in order to get something done? Because, you know, I know, it's not even a feeling. I know we've got some way better stories out there than what we've got today that are just waiting to be told. But I mean, if you're starting off or you don't come from this space and you don't have an agent, how do you get your project made? Previs today is incredibly expensive, full stop. You can have all of the best ideas in the world, but if you don't have a really good visual way of communicating what that movie is in your head in a video format or in an image format to the people that might be able to give you access to the resources you need to get it done, your chances are very slim about getting it made. So I'm just personally most excited to see what news stories we're going to tell, because I think we've got a lot of really great new ideas out there, and this is going to completely reshape the landscape of who the creators we look up to are. I mean, we're going to have a whole new generation of Steven Spielbergs and George Lucases out there that are basically going to get their start as a result of these tools. So I'm most excited about that.
I could not agree more. I am super excited to see where this is all going to go and the stories that are going to get told, all centered around it. Now, I want to ask one question to kind of close this out in our discussion, and then we're going to jump over to Q&A. But what are you most excited about in the AI space that's going to kind of help propel everything forward? I'd love to hear from each of you.
I am most excited for us to jump forward a year and see where we are with managing the compute. When generative AI can be fully on device, I can't even imagine what computers will feel like. So I'm really excited about the continued iteration in that space to get it to where we don't need to talk to the internet to do anything, because that opens up a lot of possibilities. And it's frankly hard for me to fathom at this moment, but I couldn't fathom where we are now a year ago. So that's the other thing, is just the rapid development. That's exciting to me too.
I'm excited for, and this is probably an unsexy answer, but there is still a lot of tedious tasks that we can knock off creatives' plates so they can focus purely on the story. Because remember, we are now competing on story, whose idea is the best. So some of the ideas that we've been talking with users about are being able to, not only generate multiple different variations of cuts, but also AI could probably play a pretty big role in like compliance. So being able to identify things like smoking, drinking, violence, nudity, that sort of thing, where those aren't particularly tasks that a lot of creatives are thrilled that they have to, manage today. So I think if we can let AI take on some of those more, compliance-driven tasks, I think we can free up a lot more extra time to just focus on like, is this the best creative cut that I could possibly deliver?
I would say I think I'm really excited to see how AI increases or returns the mentorship relationship. I was one of those like data wranglers early in my career, and it's a lot of the reason that I actually got out of filmmaking. I want to get assistants and sort of younger next gen filmmakers back into the creative conversation. And the reality is like, that's who's really diving in with AI. And so I think a lot of our more seasoned filmmakers, our more seasoned editors are going to start turning to a younger generation to be like, how do I write a good prompt? How do I actually do this? Like, what are the new tools? Show me, teach me. And so I like bringing back more of that, the community to editorial, the community to filmmaking, of like teaching each other how this all works, sharing the knowledge of like, how do we get the best out of the technology, that I think is already starting to happen with AI. It's moving so fast that we're dependent on each other sharing the knowledge, saying like, oh, have you seen this new thing from, and this plugin? And oftentimes there's been a a mentality in filmmaking that you really want to like act like you really know what you're talking about and like you're really like informed. And we're at a place where things are moving so fast that a lot of people are like, I haven't heard about that. I don't know about that. Like, tell me, share the information. And I really like that it's bringing that back into the industry.
I love it. Thank you all so much for just sharing your insight, sharing your knowledge. You're all wonderful. So I appreciate you so much for hopping on this for this session. But I do want to open up the floor to Q&A. So I know there's a few questions that kind of popped up. So we got a little queue going on. But any folks in the audience, please drop in your questions. Now is the time. We only got a few moments left with our guests today. But let's go ahead and start the Q&A. All right. So our first question here, we'll pop it up on the screen. I think this one is actually going to be for you, Kylee. I think it was regarding, can you relabel the badge? This is when you were doing the sound demo. So we could pull up your screen here.
Yes.
If we still have it. Stand by.
Show you real quick. So, all right, there we go. So yes, when I click on one of these, it'll show dialogue up here. If it's wrong for some reason, just hit clear audio type, and then you can select a new audio type here and assign it.
All right, hip to be a dad. I hope that you are hip to that response. I don't know what I'm saying there, but yes, I hope that answers the question.
To give a little bit more insight into what's going on in the Essential Sound Panel, the audio type, I can't remember if you said this earlier, Kylee. The audio type dictates what functionality is surfaced in the Essential Sound Panel. So there are specific tools that are most relevant to working with music or working with dialogue. And so you'll see if you are to change what the audio type is, that the tools that are actually surfaced change.
Right.
All right. Yes, and there is one more question in Premiere, so I figure we'll stay in that space. This is from Scott. Is there something that has to be done to enable the audio AI?
No, it's coming in the next version of Premiere, and when you start dropping things into your sequence, it'll automatically start tagging, just to prevent any issues with big timelines suddenly being tagged. If you already have an edit and you're bringing it into the next version of Premiere, we won't auto tag, but you can go ahead and tell it to auto tag by basically selecting everything and going to the Essential Sound Panel and saying, yeah, go ahead and tag this.
Perfect. Sweet. Thank you for the question, Scott. All right. Next one is from Tucker. This one's more of a generative AI question. To what extent can the generative AI tools within Premiere generate topography? Do we have any info on that just yet?
I don't think that there's any current plans yet. Tucker, I think you might be referring to like text effects maybe that exist in the Firefly site today and bringing those into Premiere. But I would love to get some more insights from you, maybe in the chat, about what you would like to see. I don't want to incept anyone, but we have heard some of our users ask for, being able to take things like those text effects and turn them into motion graphics templates. I know I would personally use that, but interested to hear your thoughts on what you'd like to see, because I don't think we've made any big announcements on that yet, but it is definitely something that's on our radar.
Love it. Thank you, Tucker. If you want to add some more to that question in the chat, please throw that in there. Yeah, this is a good question for the group. Will there be generative AI in After Effects as well this year?
So in 2024, we're focusing generative efforts in Premiere Pro, but we absolutely know that After Effects users are chomping at the bit to get to it too. But this year it'll be prioritized for Premiere.
All right. Thank you, Marcel. From Suzanne. And then what does a producer need to consider for copyright when using AI for scripts or content production?
You need to consider that it is the Wild West. And currently, there is no hard, fast rule about how to manage, what has been generated by an AI and how much of that you own. So proceed with caution. Our general rule of thumb is if anything is going to make it into the final cut of something, you should probably think about having a commercially safe model be what's generating that. But I think a lot of this is really going to be determined in future court cases that have not come out yet, honestly.
All right. And a couple other questions have popped in. Thank you, Suzanne, for that question. Another one from Tucker is how does the use of AI tools impact rendering time? It's actually a good question.
It is a good question. We're still really working on developing all the tools. And as I mentioned, things are changing every day when it comes to compute power and how much is happening on device or in the cloud. So I don't have anything to share right now about the impact on rendering time, but we'll be telling you more when we have some things to share in that regard.
Cool. All right. I'm just doing one last glimpse. A lot of thumbs up for Firefly, by the way. I don't know if y'all can see the chat on your end, but let me, it was a couple more that popped in. Let's see here. This actually is about Firefly prompts. I think there might be some folks in here that might be the answer to that. The results from my limited attempts at Gen AI with Firefly have been a bit mixed. Any advice for how to refine my prompts?
Yes.
The promptologist.
Yes. So first and foremost, be patient with yourself because promptography, like I said, is an entirely new muscle. It does take some getting used to, and prompt refinement is something that you will get better with over time. In fact, we do have a unofficial guide. If you like, I can drop that in the chat in a moment here that might give you some creative ideas. It's very image heavy, and it'll give you some inspo images of things to try. But we've been putting in new features into Firefly all the time. I would say if you have a very specific idea of what it is you are trying to create in Firefly, be sure to use both the style and structure reference options that exist in the tool today. Structure, if you really like the framing of another picture that you want to use as reference just for the actual framing of something, that's where you put it in for the structure reference. And style reference is anything that you like the aesthetics of. So whether that's the lighting, the general design of something, that's where that style reference is going to come into play. There's also sliders underneath both of those options that will allow you to fine tune those results if you want something super stylized or maybe just a little bit less stylized. Feel free to play around with those as well. There's also inspo style references that exist in Firefly today as well. But if I had to leave you with, one piece of advice, it is keep at it. Like promptography is an entirely new skill set that we're all learning, but hopefully this guide will help just a little bit with that.
And I also want to add, today we announced the Firefly Image 3 model. So go back and try it again. The model will have evolved and changed. And one thing that was added was reference image, similar to structure reference, where you can upload images to tell Firefly to match similar elements and style and color, which will help to cut down on the prompting as well.
All right. So I know we've got a couple more questions, but we are getting very close to time. But I know some folks were asking for that guide, Meagan or Morgan. Can you please actually send that to me and we can see about getting it out to our guests that signed up?
I'm finding it right now.
So yeah. And then we can see if we can leave maybe an email in there. But we'll make sure we get that guide to any folks that were asking for it. But unfortunately, we are at the end of our scheduled time today. But I do want to make sure we thank our guests, Kylee, Meagan, and Morgan. Thank you so much for joining us. It was a really great discussion. And I think our audience got a lot of great knowledge out of it. So I appreciate you all joining.
Yeah, thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks for having us, Shawn.
Thank you. All right. So one last little thing here. I'm trying to get my notes here so I can get back into rhythm. So again, AI is a very new and fast tool to help you with many different workflows of creative and non-creative workflows. And we hope that this session enlightened you on many of how AI is changing the landscape of our workflows. We also hope there's a level of excitement to see companies creating AI tools that include the human interactions and, of course, the human spirit. So make sure you head to the Frame.io live page, frame.io/live, and sign up for our ongoing sessions. And please check back regularly as we update our schedule pretty regularly. Now, make sure you also follow us on Instagram. That's frame_io, where you can get all of our new product updates. You get information about Frame.io and also Adobe tools as well. And also our blog.frame.io. That's Frame.io Insider. Really great information about our industry and how everyone kind of works together and talk about workflows, talk about systems and processes. But thank you so much for joining us on Frame.io Live. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you later.